Hey everybody, Austin here again with a quick play. Today we're going to be playing through Hook for the Sega Genesis. This version of the game is actually based on the Super Nintendo version, as far as I can tell. The SNES game was actually developed by a Japanese studio, and the Sega Genesis version here, along with the Sega and Mega CD versions, was actually ported by Core Design. Which is kind of interesting because a few months ago I binged out on Core Design's Sega CD games like Wonder Dog and Chuck Rock 1 and 2 and Wolfchild, which I did quick plays of all on this channel. You can check those out if you're interested. But yeah, Hook turned out to also be developed by them on the Sega consoles, well, the 16-bit Sega consoles, and it's kind of an interesting side-scrolling action game. It's got some really weird elements to it that just makes it kind of awkward to play and appreciate. But because this was based on a really popular early 1990s film, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that are nostalgic about this game. I am not nostalgic about this game at all. I think I played it once in the late 90s for all of 30 seconds or so when I was collecting Sega CD games way back when. It wasn't until the end of 2022 that I decided to finally fire it up and really try to put some effort into it, because I was trying to explore the Sega CD's side-scrolling action game library. There's actually quite a few of them on the platform, and I had only played a couple, like Batman Returns, Prince of Persia, Sonic CD, and I think that was about it. And so yeah, I binged out on all those Core Design games, and then also Hook, for the Sega CD, and yeah, I came out the end as very indifferent to the game. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it either, and you'll probably understand why once we start getting into the game and I start playing or attempting to play the game. It has very floaty physics, it's got massive hitboxes, so if you're trying to jump over stuff, it's very difficult to actually do that successfully. There's a run button like in Super Mario, and there's momentum-based physics like in that, but it's nowhere near as snappy and responsive, and so it's just got this weird feel to it. I assume the developers were going for this sort of whimsical feel, but that doesn't really work for 2D action games, at least in my opinion. Maybe some 3D games, but classic, 2D, pixel art platformers, they need to be faster and more responsive and snappy. Otherwise, they just feel really weird and weighty, and a whimsical platformer probably shouldn't feel weighty. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but we're basically going to try to go through this game. I am not like an expert at this. I learned it several months back. I took a several-month break between playing it, and then I went through it twice last night just to warm up for this video, and I have not done another practice run since last night. So I am going into this a little rusty. Hopefully we can do this on our first try without too many deaths. I have a feeling we're going to make, several mistakes, but that's fine. That's especially okay in this video series. This is my quick play format for anyone that's just joining in here for the first time, where we basically just fire up a game and see what we can do with it. But I did have the intent to do a full playthrough of this one, so I did practice it many months ago. I beat the game like, I think 3 or 4 times back to back after I learned it, and then I did 2 playthroughs last night. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. And, as usual, I'll try to explain the mechanics and things like that, and talk you through strategies on various parts of the game. A lot of the parts of this game are pretty easy. Other parts can be really challenging if you're trying to rush through, but if you take your time, they're also still kind of easy. And the boss fights in general aren't really that challenging either, but a couple of them do have a couple particular strategies you have to play by, otherwise you're not going to beat them, you're going to get wrecked and just lose lives. So, now, this game does dish out lives like candy on Halloween, so, I've watched a long play, and one long play, the guy had like 24 lives on the final stage in the game, and I think on my first playthrough, I still had 9 lives at the end of the game. It was pretty crazy, so, yeah, you get a lot of extra lives in this game. So there is a lot of buffer room to deal with some of this game's BS, like the huge hitboxes that are just really tough to work around. But okay, enough rambling. Let's play some Hook. Let's hit that start button. And as far as I'm aware, there are no options in this game. So there is no crazy hard mode or anything like that. What you see is what you get. You play through the game. That's the only difficulty, unfortunately. I would have been interested to see a higher difficulty level in this game. and an easier difficulty even, just like for like the real baby kids out there, you know, from the at the time this game came out. But you know, as someone that's a little more experienced with video games, I definitely would have liked to have seen what a higher difficulty would have been like. Although, then again, this is 16-bit era, it probably just would have been enemies do more damage and enemies take more hits. Probably not more enemies on screen, at least for a, I don't know, a more generic action game like this. I don't know. Alright, let's go ahead and skip this. The story in this game is based on the movie, so you have characters from the film in it. Although your main character here looks nothing like Robin Williams. I don't know if they couldn't get his likeness or if they just decided they needed someone that looked a little bit cooler. Which this was the early 90s. This was the era of the Edge. The era of Edge. Everything had to look cool. So yeah. Occasionally over the course of this game you will have bees that come out, and the bees you want to just smack back. Otherwise they're going to go ahead and just run into you. So if you come down here, you can actually fall down into water. I actually don't want to do that. You have to deal with a lot of fish, and I took a hit. I found out yesterday you can actually get a running start here and just run and jump all the way across here and get yourself a cherry. Cherries give you 1 block of health back, and your health is those sort of mushroom-looking things next to where it says power. Alright, we just want to take our time here, smack this guy back, and smack him back again, and now he is not really dead. You don't really kill these enemies in this game. These yellow guys always run towards you, so you want to just wait for them and then smack them. And here is a fairy. I'm assuming it's Tinkerbell. And what she does, if you stand underneath her sparkly stuff, she'll fill your fly meter. And when you're in the air, you press the jump button, and you'll fly for a short period of time. You can also let go of it, and you will stop flying, and your meter will pause. Also, you can hold the run button in the air to fly really, really fast. And the reason that's important is that there are some areas in this game where they're meant for you to fly through them really, really fast. Like if you want to get this extra life, or 3, it's actually 3 extra lives. Jeez, no wonder like people have so many extra lives by the end of the game. We've already got 5 on stage 1. Yeah, you have to hold down that run button if you want to fly quickly. Now this is our first boss. It's Rufio. And he basically dives across the screen, and you want to jump over him, and when he's got his guard down, that is when you want to attack. Just like that. 3 hits, and he's down for the count. And we're going to skip the story sequences in this, but again, it does follow the plot of the film somewhat loosely. So there are characters from the film, Rufio, for instance, and if you've never seen the film, there are some things spoiled in this, since it does follow the story of the film loosely, but we'll go ahead and skip through that. And there is this really, really arbitrary map screen that just, after coming from games like Super Mario World, this is just, it's a very lazy map screen. Man, I'm getting critical of this game. I really don't want to get critical. One of the significant things about beating Rufio, though, is it does actually demonstrate the sword upgrade mechanic. These leaves right here as well extend your health bar permanently for the rest of the game. You can get 2 of them over the course of the game. There are quite a few point icons and stuff like that enemies drop. I'm not going to really worry about them. Let's go ahead and jump over this guy. And we're going to jump over here. There are lots of bees' nests here. You don't want to attack them, otherwise bees will come out. And again, the bees can be a little tricky to deal with. But basically all you have to do is just smack them back to where they came from. Now, if you have this upgraded sword ability, the game is actually a little bit easier. You can attack a lot of enemies from the distance. And I was checking out some long plays, and a lot of people that are, you know, that were doing those long plays really rely on this attack. And, you know, I've never been very good at actually keeping this. When you take a single hit, you actually lose your upgrade. So I don't really ever have it very often. Also, here's another extra life. If you want to get that, let's actually wait for this other guy to come back up. I don't trust it. I don't want to land on top of him. Or maybe he just despawned. He's not coming back up. Well, basically, we want to grab this extra life and then just fall straight down. Wow, he went off screen and stopped moving. That's a little frustrating. Well, good to know, though. You know, there's still some mechanics in this I'm still learning, which is apparently if enemies go off screen, the game no longer registers them, and they just kind of stop in place. So I just landed right on top of him. In case you need this cherry right here, I did find out you can actually do a running jump, and thanks to the big hitboxes, you can go ahead and collect it on the way back up. I haven't successfully collected it on the way down. And, oop, almost landed right on top of this guy. And alright, boss time. We want to wait for this guy in the middle to appear, and then we have to smack him. Watch out for his shenanigans here. I like to just sit on the left and just wait for him to appear down below. Now, you can try to bounce all over the place, but the problem is your jump is so slow and unbelievably floaty that even if he appears high, you're not going to get to the top of the screen by the time you can attack him. So I just wait down here. I just take my time. I really don't worry. See? Boom, just like that. Should be 3 hits and then he's gone. Now, if you have the long-range projectile, he can be a little bit easier. Like, if he appears on the other side of the screen, you can just shoot him from your side of the screen, which is kind of nice. But because of that weird hiccup with that enemy going off screen and then not coming back up, I ended up taking a hit and losing my sword. Would have been awesome if, like, you just kept the sword for the rest of the game, and you could, like, upgrade your projectile. And then they could have designed the game more around, like, projectile gameplay, and I think the game would have been a lot more fun if that was the case. Maybe that sword is a little overpowered, maybe they could have done some kind of upgrade system, but I think the game probably would have been a little more fun if they went in that direction. But alright, next level. And that was a bad start. I always just, like, I get into the start of this level and I'm like, dude, what do I do? Am I playing a video game? I don't know. So these rock guys, they throw 2 projectiles, and interestingly, these sort of Venus flytrap type things, they actually, you know, they expect you to jump over them. You don't actually have to do that. You can actually just run right in front of them. That was actually something I learned last night when I was playing this game. I was like, what? I don't have to actually jump? Very interesting. And it looks like this guy actually respawned. Oh, that's fantastic, but he dropped an extra life, which is actually kind of nice. I don't really need them. Now, these guys on these barrels, or these, I don't know what they're on, actually. Let's look at their sprite next time. They actually take 2 hits, and they kind of catch you off guard. This is one of those areas where I mentioned at the start that this can be really hard if you're trying to rush through, especially on your first try. But it can actually be really easy if you just take your time. So we just take our time, just like that. And I think there is going to actually be a sword upgrade here somewhere. There it is, up there. So just take our time, just let him go down, let him do his thing. Now, enemies will drop health pickups. They drop a bunch of things. Now, that was an example of the game just being so ridiculously slow, I couldn't actually keep up with that, which is why you really want to take things slow in this game. You do not have the reaction time to turn around and attack. You are extremely slow in this game, and so you cannot play this like a Ninja Gaiden or something like that, or a Mega Man. Hell, even Castlevania is probably more responsive than this, which is really saying something. So, go ahead and attack this guy from a distance. Wow, he still takes 2 hits even with this, like, amazing looking projectile attack. Some very interesting design choices, and by interesting, I don't really mean that in a good way. It's just, there's interesting, like, oh wow, that's really interesting. That's cool. And then there's interesting that's like, oh, that's interesting. Hook is more like, that's interesting. I'm gonna be very curious to see the comments on this video, to see how many people are like really nostalgic about this game. Nice, we have to fly up a little bit. I actually want to save my fly energy though, because we can get ourselves another extra life, or 3. I'm not sure how many it is. We're gonna find out. But we also need the fly energy to get to the exit. So we fly up. There's 1. 8 lives already. And then we fly up again. Now, this level I don't think has a boss fight. So we just run to the end, and then that's it. You know, the game could potentially be interesting to play for score. I haven't really thought about that aspect. Like, maybe speedrunning your way through the levels can give you a lot of extra bonus points, but I'm not sure how those bonus points really add up in relation to like just killing enemies over and over, just grinding out on enemies. These cat animals, they shoot these projectiles at you, and what ends up happening is they freeze you in place when you take a hit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of fly over everything. And let's see, let's try to run and jump. I think we're gonna be safe here. Yep. And there she is again. Let's go ahead and just fly straight up. Fly over here. And we should have a boss fight here in just a little bit. I think there's gonna be a water section coming up though. And it's gonna be our first auto-scrolling section. I lost my long-range projectile, unfortunately, but that's okay. Yep, auto-scroller. When we go to the bottom, mermaids actually bring us up to the top, which is kind of interesting. We can attack these barrels. You got the old classic Genesis faux transparency effect, which is achieved by using dithering. Doesn't look very good when upscaled. It looks a little more convincing when you're playing on an old CRT, especially with an RF switch box. Now this part right here, a lot of people are going to get stuck here. You can either go to the bottom and get pushed up by the mermaid. Man, I had an itch there. Or the game will actually just push you up if you're on that corner. Alright, so we need to actually kind of fly over this boss. Smack him in the face. Where he appears at seems to be completely random as far as I can tell. Wow, that was really good. That was the perfect pattern. I fought him last night. He kept appearing on the bottom, or he'd appear on the opposite side from where I am. So it was a little frustrating, but yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, his pattern in particular is basically completely random, as far as I can tell. Most bosses in this game just kind of do the same thing over and over again, but that guy just appears at random spots. Alright, cave number 1. There are multiple caves in this game. And cave number 2 actually has a interesting gimmick. And we can go ahead and fly up here, just like that. I do like how fast the flying is. That is kind of nice. It's definitely the fastest part of the game, that's for sure. And we're just going to fall through this water. And swimming actually operates a lot like flying does. You just hold down the swim button, and then you just move the D-pad around. Otherwise, you'll just sink. Alright, if we come over here, I think we should actually get ourselves a sword, which gives us our projectile back. And I'm going to try to fall down here. Just drop down, and I'm going to drop down again. I'm going to play it nice and safe if I want to keep my sword. Again, I'm not very good at keeping my sword in this game. And it's okay, it's not the end of the world. You know, it is a little overpowered in a way, in that it is the only long-range thing in the game that you have access to. But it's also not the end of the world. The game is definitely designed around like your short-range sword attack. Alright, making good progress. I mean, considering I didn't really do a warm-up run before this, I'm doing okay, which is cool. I was a little worried that I'd be struggling with this. Because, you know, one of the things about doing videos like this, games like Hook, is I'm not in love with this game. And so, I'm kind of like forcing myself to do this video. You know, the video still has a purpose. Like, I want to show people through the game, and I'm going to talk about it, voice my opinions and things like that. But when you're doing games you don't really care for that much, it's again, you kind of have to force yourself through them sometimes. And Hook is like that for me. You know, again, I don't love it, but I don't hate it either, but it's, I don't like it as much as I wish I did. Another health upgrade right there. And I'm actually really surprised I've still kept my sword. Of course, now that I said that, I'm going to jinx myself. Those guys with shields, you know, you can only attack from behind, so you kind of want to either jump over them or wait for them to turn around. And, yep. So I got hit by his projectile, which freezes me in place. Now, unfortunately, there's no sound cue or anything when that happens. No sound or visual cue. Which I was actually talking about that on a stream the other night when I was practicing this, about how there are some, like, shortcuts taken with, like, production values in this game, which also makes it feel not as good as it could. Old school, you know, 2D games in particular, you know, you really need that visual and audio cue to give you feedback when something happens on screen, and when you don't get feedback, it just feels weird. Let's see if we can come down this way. No, but I just figured something out. Or maybe I... Oh, I did. Okay. So it looks like you jump a little bit higher if you run and jump. And that boulder guy is actually really hard to deal with, and I just figured out you can actually snipe him from the distance with your projectile. So that is why you want to keep your projectile. This level is a lot harder if you don't have your projectile. Oh, never mind. He just spawns back in. Wow. I thought I was clever. Well, I could probably still do it here. Let's see. All right, there's one. Let's see if that still counts. It does. Awesome. Okay, well, I still figured something out. Yeah, it still helped. Go ahead and attack that guy from a distance and from behind. But yeah, like I was saying, like sometimes, like when I don't love a game, like I'm trying to do a playthrough of, I oftentimes struggle to play as well as I would like on said games, because I'm just not into it. You know, if you're not into it, you're always gonna struggle to put out like the best content you can. If you go and watch me play something like Ninja Gaiden or Battletoads, man, I can just rip through those and talk the entire time without any issues. But something like this is, it's a little more shiesty. Alright, so for this guy, we want to get to one side of the screen, and ideally what you do is, hopefully you get a good pattern if you have the projectile. What you want to do without the projectile, though, is kind of bait these bombs towards you, and then you jump over them like this, and then you kind of... Hopefully they layer on top of him, and you get to this center platform and attack them, then they drop down below. But, yeah, that was a good boss fight, actually, partially because I have my projectile, and I'm not actually used to having the projectile in these bosses, so I got some good hits on him from a distance because of my long-range projectile, so that's pretty cool. Alright, another auto-scroller. This one's not too bad to deal with. There are some health upgrades. I even think there's a sword upgrade, too. And having our long-range projectile, we might actually be able to have an easier time with this. I know there are enemies that will kind of fly overhead, and maybe I can hit them from a distance. And I really like to conserve my fly energy here when I can. Oh, that was just mean. Not a big deal. Let's go ahead and grab that extra life. Why not? Get more fly energy. Just dodge that like it's a shoot 'em up. You can attack these guys. You know, it's fine. You can also get this health. By the way, we're also maxed out on how high our health bar can go. It only goes up to 4. For anybody curious, I did look up gameplay of the Super Nintendo version of the game, and the SNES title is actually a lot more colorful, and there are some interesting, you know, visual differences as well. As you notice on the Genesis version, the on the top bar, where it's got score and stuff like that, on the Super Nintendo version, the visuals actually wrap around it. which is nice. It looks like the scroll up top is like overlaid on top of the gameplay. In this version, it's just in its own separate, you know, heads-up display area. So it doesn't look as cool. By the way, the gimmick of this level is you've got this flame. If you attack the flame, the lights go out for a second. Also, if the flame goes too far off screen, the lights also go out. So you really want to, you know, not go too far off the screen. Unfortunately, I dropped way too far down. There are spikes there conveniently, and so I lost my sword. It looks like that enemy dropped a cherry, so I was able to get my lost block of health back. And so we just need to take our time. This is definitely the longest level in the game in terms of just how long it takes you to go through, because of this this mechanic with this flame. There are a few different secrets here too, where you can go through walls, get some power-ups. You can also use the fly ability to get behind those guys easier. Just wait for it to get closer before dropping, and there we go. Just let it follow me. Now, interestingly, Hook was on a ton of different systems back in the day, but a lot of them were different versions. However, the Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Sega CD versions also had down conversions to the Game Gear and the Master System. Now, the Master System version apparently never came out. It was canceled, but the Game Gear version did. I think full like ROM leaks of, or a ROM leak of the Master System version exists. And it's actually really interesting because like they seem to be very close to the 16-bit versions. I think they're lacking levels, assuming the Wikipedia articles to be believed. I did not look at you know, full long plays of the 8-bit versions, but I do know that the 16-bit versions in Wikipedia are stated to have 12 levels on the Sega CD and Super Nintendo, and only 11 on the Genesis, but I have played the Sega CD version to completion and the Genesis version to completion, and they are basically identical as far as, you know, the graphics and level design are concerned. And I watched a long play of the Super Nintendo version, and it is also basically identical in terms of level progression. The Super Nintendo version definitely looks nicer, but, you know, they all have the same amount of levels, so I'm not really sure what the Wikipedia article is on about. So, but still, the 8-bit stripped down versions are really interesting, actually. They look really interesting. I'd like to actually give them a try, just to see how they feel. They might even honestly be more fun than this, because they seem to actually move a little bit faster. One of my big complaints with this game is just how slow it is, and how slow you are to respond. You know, 2D action games like this, to me, need to be fast and responsive. You know, they don't have to, like, move it at lightning speed, but they need to be snappy. You need to be able to turn around and attack quickly. And when you can't, they just don't feel very good. You know, snappiness is a part of, you know, the best 2D action games, you know, feel. Like, it really helps those games just stand above and beyond. And when, you know, 2D action games aren't doing that, they just don't feel that great. And so Hook is one of those examples. But I know I'm going to have a lot of people out there that are like, man, I love this game, blah, blah, blah. And that's cool. You know, everybody loves what they love, but it just doesn't do it for me. I do like some of the visual touches, though. Like, I'm on a hill, and Pan here is actually sitting at an angle. So that is a nice visual touch. It's not like, you know, this is like just a poorly made game. It's definitely not. There are some nice visual touches and stuff like that. Some decent, you know, production quality, but it's the gameplay that really gets me on this one. It's like, man, the game looks fantastic in stills, and then you start playing it, and you're like, oh, this feels interesting. This is interesting. Yeah. Again, a big difference between like, oh man, that's interesting. That's really neat, and versus, oh, that's interesting. Oh man. All right, so after this, I think we're on our final set of levels, actually, and I am just getting wrecked here because I'm not really paying attention. But this is the lead up to the boss fight. And for this boss fight, he throws his skull out, and what we need to do is jump behind him. The only way to do damage is to get behind him. And it's actually kind of funny. I watched some of the long plays, and they were clearly playing the game for the first time because they didn't know the jump behind him. They kept trying to smack him from the front. But yeah, it's one of those examples where you kind of have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you will not get anywhere. And there we go. I really like that graphical touch, though. The skull has a question mark. He's like, I don't know what to do. He just falls off screen. So that's a nice little, you know, and that adds charm. You know, charm is good. Charm is a great, you know, quality to have in video games. It makes you laugh, makes you chuckle. That's always good. Alright, this level can be a little bit of a pain. There are a lot of tricks and traps here. And we're just going to take this bottom route completely. There are lots of different ways you can go in this level, which is interesting. Go ahead and run past those bees. And I'm going to run and jump down here. Just like that. Just completely skip this whole section. Alright, we've got these bomb guys up here. Thankfully their bombs don't go down below. But you've got these other guys that shoot these sort of scythes. Or sickles. Sickle-looking things. And they're a little more difficult to deal with. Now, there was a way to get my fly ability, and I could have flown up there vertically, and I think there would have been some health refills or something. It's not a big deal. I don't really need it. We'll survive. Yep, these guys. Much harder to deal with. Now you've got these guys that also shoot guns at you. They're also a little more difficult to deal with. But here's our boss fight. I think there's some health up here. There we go. They gave us all of our health back. And so for this guy, we actually need to get behind him as well. And we can do that the easiest by just flying around him. Oh, God, these hitboxes are terrible. Yeah, I was watching the Super Nintendo version of the game in the form of a long play, and it looks like the hitboxes might actually be a little bit better in that. I'm not sure why they got bigger in the Genesis version. Outside of, you know, this being obviously developed by a different studio. Man, I am doing really badly here. Alright, let's get this guy on this side of the screen, because I'm obviously struggling here. There we go. I thought that was going to be the final hit, but apparently not. There we go, that's the final hit. Not a very hard boss fight, but like I mentioned earlier, when I'm not really feeling it, I start to, like, zone out. Which is exactly what happened on that boss fight. Very, very curious to know what people think of this game. Normally, I don't really focus on opinions so much on these videos. It's more about showing you how to play through the game. But in a game like this, it's like it's hard to avoid it. We'll be very curious to see what comments are like regarding, you know, how people feel about this game. All right, one of our last levels here. Okay, I still took a hit. You gotta be kidding me. Okay. Game, you're starting to frustrate me. Alright, let's go ahead and smack this guy. Now, interestingly, if I stand on the right-hand side, you'll notice that this archer actually switches directions. So I can move over to the right, manipulate him to shoot right, and then I can get a nice, easy, clean shot on him from the left. So that was the strategy there. Just gonna do the same thing as before. You can explore a whole lot in this area. Oh, and actually it looks like this is an optional room. Okay, so this archer takes... You gotta be kidding me. That archer takes 2 hits, apparently, and I barely had any iframes there, so I got the sword, and I lost the sword. Let's see if it respawns. It respawns! Okay, I just learned something. That's actually really good to know. Alright, are you gonna walk towards me? Nope. Alright, you're coming back. Jeez. This is such a weird level design. Not a fan. Not a fan at all. Yeah, if I wanted that sword, there was basically nothing I could have done. I had to take a hit if I wanted to actually get this sword. Which, again, the sword does make life a little bit easier. You know, not gonna lie. Wait for this guy to go to the right, just like that. And I'll jump all the way over here. Okay, good. Alright, next screen. Okay. That's annoying. Alright, got a chariot at least. I'm gonna have to check out some speedruns of this game. There's gotta be some speedruns. I want to see, like, how quickly people just, like, rip right through this. Alright, so there's actually a door up there to the right. I can't actually get up there. I could if I had the fly ability. So I have to take the bottom route. Still got hit. And this is another, I think, optional room. Now, if I, you know, didn't already have all of my leaves, this would be another life extend. But what's nice is if you've lost some health, the leaf does give you at least 1 block of health back. And another sickle guy. Which I still haven't really figured out how to avoid their attacks very well. Also, lots of gun guys here, and these guys can be quite annoying. They also take 2 hits. So one strategy is to try to just fly straight up. And I'd like to actually kind of take my time here on this part. One and 2, and fly straight up. Oh! I'm doing really badly now. This game is just tearing me to shreds. It's okay, I've got 13 tries. You can go ahead and sit right here and attack this guy from safety. Oh! When you're flying really fast, you can lose control very easily. And that's exactly why I flew up into the spikes. I let go of the D-pad, and he continued to fly up, which is a little aggravating. It's because of those momentum-based physics. You know, there are momentum-based physics in this game. Alright, let's just go ahead and skip him. Oh, I still took a hit. Man, these hitboxes are really something. They are really something. Alright, there we go. Alright, we want to jump over this, and then jump over this, get some fly. Go ahead and try to get rid of him, and then get the rest of our fly energy. There's another one. Just fly over him, and fly over him. Alright, let's go ahead and let our guy here do the roly-poly. There is a scene in the movie where a character does that. Alright, so now we've got Hook. Hook round 1. We just basically just wait for him to attack. That's when he's open. Almost like a quick time event. This game would have done well in the Xbox 360 era. And then he hooks his way down. And then we have round 2, which is actually a completely separate screen after a bonus countdown, apparently. Alright, let's go ahead and just skip that. Rufio dies, and we have to wait for him to throw his hook shot, and we just get inside of the hook shot. Pretty easy first phase once you figure it out. And then it's kind of like before, except I found that you kind of have to... I usually just like look in the opposite direction, wait for him to attack, and then... this is bad. And those hitboxes are so bad. There we go, there's 1. And 2, and you want to jump over him, but the hitboxes are not your friend, as you can see. In the Super Nintendo version, you can get that, like, easy, because the hitboxes aren't as huge. But the hitboxes in this version of the game are just gigantic for some reason. Alright, jump over the hook. We can just predict it. And let's try to run and jump over him. I still took a hit. It is awful. There we go. It is awful. There is, like, it seems like, unless you get, like, a really good running head start, there is no way to avoid his attack. Man, I can't believe I've died twice on him already. It's okay, we've got 12 tries left, guys. We've got 12 tries left. Oh, man. Why am I doing this stupid game? Why am I playing this stupid game? Oh, yeah, that's right. He can go diagonal with that, too, so you really need to predict it correctly. There we go. Alright, can we get it? Nope. It's impossible. I'm convinced that unless you get, like, a good running head start, it's impossible. Maybe... Oh, actually, I have an idea. Maybe I can attack him. No. I was gonna say, like, get him to block and then try to jump over him. I don't think it's gonna do anything. It's not gonna do a darn thing. Alright, hook. There we go. And, oops. Yep. That's okay. That actually worked out. And hook again. Running head start. I'm also not reacting in time. I'm too busy, like, laughing at myself. Oh my god. This is awful. This is utterly terrible. I don't care. I don't even like this game anymore. I don't like this game at all anymore. The little bit I actually care for this game, I don't care for it anymore at all. Oh, good lord, man. There we go. There's one. Come on. There's two. And there's three. Look at that. That should have been my first attempt. Okay. I'm never playing this game again. Unless it's the Super Nintendo version. I'm going to try the SNES one. But man, those hitboxes were utterly gigantic. Oh, I hate it when, especially in classic 2D games, I hate it when old school 2D games do that. Tight hitboxes make games so much more enjoyable. You have so much more flexibility. Oh, man. But okay, guys, that was Hook, specifically the Sega Genesis and Megadrive version of the game. Like you can see, for those of you guys familiar with the movie, this follows the script loosely, ends on the same notes as the film. So I believe the actual film was Sony, and so Sony did the publishing of basically, like, I think all of the home versions of the game. Whereas they contracted out different development studios to make different versions for different platforms. And, yeah, so again, the 16-bit versions, or the 16-bit console versions, were all based on the same game. The 8-bit Sega versions were based on their 16-bit big brothers. The NES and the Game Boy games were actually done by a different development studio, I believe, and they're completely different games. They also look kind of janky, but I don't know, they might actually be fun. They might even be more fun than this, despite looking not as good. Then there was an arcade game by IREM, which was a beat-em-up. The Amiga, MS-DOS, and Atari ST, they had a sort of point-and-click adventure vibe to them, which was kind of interesting. And I feel like I'm missing another version, but it's neither here nor there. Oh yeah, there was a Commodore 64 version, that's right. And I think that's like its own thing. But yeah, I'm done talking about Hook. I'm definitely not going to play this game again for a while. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you've played this before, I'm very curious what your thoughts are on how you enjoy it compared to other side-scrolling platformers from the era. And for anybody that hasn't played it, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts based on what you just saw and all the trials and tribulations I had to go through, you know, in this video. Yeah, very curious. Feel free to drop a comment down below. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching. For everybody not subbed, if you like this sort of thing, feel free to subscribe. And I've got a lot of playthroughs like this, and I've got many, many more to come. For all you guys already subbed, thank you for your continued support as always. Feel free to give that video a thumbs up. Apparently it helps my videos get picked up in search results, which, with how my channel growth has been lately, that would be welcome. But I don't expect videos like this to ever hit it off. They're lazy. They're lazy. This was a dumb video anyway. Why am I even doing this? See, Hook brings out the worst in me. But, alright guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you later. Until the next one, take it easy.